Hello, and welcome to this webinar about Embase. My name is Chris, and I'm your host for today. I'm here with our Embase expert, Anne-Marie Roche. Anne-Marie has a biology background and has delivered Embase training for several years. She works closely with the Embase product team and our customers to understand how Embase provides a solution for many different workflows. Today she will introduce you to Embase, showing you, for example, how to pinpoint precise biomedical information, set up basic search strategies, and how to continuously track the biomedical information. I would like to point out that we will place this webinar online so that you can listen to it again in your own time. Embase is developed and maintained by Elsevier, and to briefly put it into context, Elsevier is serving three main areas of interest to you: biology, chemistry, and medicine. Embase is one of the products serving your needs in these areas. We also have Reaxis, our chemistry workflow tool, Pharmapendium, giving searchable access to all FDA and EMA approval documentation, and our new target finding and validation tool, Target Insights. Cyber Science Direct provides full-text access to over 10 million journal articles and is continuously looking for new and novel ways to enable further understanding of the scientific literature through applications and new article formats. Cyberscopus is our all-science database. Illuminate enables product and partnering decisions for R&D and innovation professionals working at the front end of innovation. And Cybers is a lens on the world's research activity. And so on to today's Embase session. During the session, you may send us your questions by using the chat or ask a question function on the webinar control panel. We will have 15 minutes for questions at the end, and for those questions we do not answer in the webinar, they will be included in a complete Q&A sent to all attendees by email. If you wish to have a full screen view, please click on the red arrow. Your control panel will be hidden. Click again on the red arrow to see your control panel again. That's it for now. Let's tell you more about Embase and how to use it. Anne-Marie, welcome. Could you briefly introduce yourself and tell us all about Embase?
Sure, Chris. Thank you very much. So, as you said, I've been working with Embase for a number of years now, dealing with the way customers want to use Embase and need to use Embase. And I'd love to tell you about it today. Embase is the world's most comprehensive intelligent biomedical research tool, providing drug and drug-related research community with reliable and authoritative content to advance new biomedical and pharmaceutical discovery. We're going to talk about three main areas today to help introduce you to Embase for those of you who are brand new. We'll talk about confidence, so looking mainly at the content here within Embase, the deep biomedical indexing, which is backed up by our thesaurus entry, and precise retrieval, which the tools that sit on top of the content and the indexing to ensure that you find the information that you need. So let's look first at confidence. So this is an overview of Embase, and you'll see entry, the biomedical thesaurus, sitting over the content in Embase. So this really backs up your search at every occasion. With 60,000 terms, you can be sure that that you are covering the most important terms that you need to search for. We have the Embase fully indexed collection, which now totals 7,700 journals, and you'll see Medline referred to underneath, which is included in the Embase collection. We add 2,500 unique journals from Medline. These are not journals which overlap. That is found in Embase and Medline. These are journals which are uniquely from Medline, and that Medline content is then added to give you your 7,700. For currency, we add articles in press and in process, so you can search the information at the earliest possible opportunity. And since 2009, we've been adding conference abstracts, and I'll mention those a little bit later on. To the left of the screen, you see Embase Classic, which is our archive file, bringing your search of the biomedical literature back to 1947. So here is an overview of the Embase Medline content. Now this can be a little bit tricky to visualize to start with, so we've tried to draw a diagram for you here. So we have Embase with 2,000 journals, which accounts for about 5.5 million articles. The circle that you're looking at in the middle, the overlapping circle, is of course the Embase and Medline overlap. Overlapping titles are part of the Embase collection, and this is especially important when you think of indexing, because it means that the 10 million plus the 5.5 million are indexed by Embase using the Embase thesaurus and Embase procedures and policies. The Medline, as we saw, 2,500 journals with the 9 million articles are then added. We do not index that content. We add it with the Medline indexing to the overall Embase collection, which you then search using embase.com. For those of you who are searching in Medline, and we know this, of course, this does happen, and you're interested in looking at, well, what are the unique titles in Embase, then this is a search that can help you to do that. If you're looking to see, well, what exactly is Embase adding in addition to my Medline search. But we would ask you to bear in mind that because of the difference in indexing, a search in Medline does not mean that you have necessarily found all of the index content. You will find, and we see this on many occasions, particularly with the drug related searching, that you will find additional content in Embase because it indexes the drug information deeper. So that is worth bearing in mind. So talking about drug related information, this gives you an idea of the scope in Embase, and it is different to Medline. So Embase covers all of Embase plus Medline, as we saw, but the key areas that you can see here for Embase where we aim to be comprehensive is in pharmacology and toxicology, the general clinical medicine, etc. Now that's different to Medline, who has a focus in a different area, and you see these are lesser focus for Embase, but of course because we add Medline to the Embase collection, then we do get a comprehensive overview of that of those subject areas as well, thanks to Medline. So what exactly does that mean in numbers to your searching? So if we have take a look here, I like to use the cardiovascular example, cardiovascular medicine. So you see here, for example, the unique Embase. So this is journals that are not found in Medline at all. You have 110. There's 206 which are shared. And you see that Medline, unique Medline, bring 21 journals to your search, and that will then give you a total of 337. So you've got the so you'll see the Elsevier total here, which is made up then of the unique Embase, the shared, and the unique Medline to give you an overall 337. And important to note that those 110 journals are then unique to your search in Embase. So let's move on. So we mentioned the conference abstracts earlier, and conference abstracts can be, the number of conferences rather that we cover can be found here on this particular link on our info site, so embase.com/info. What is Embase coverage? And you can review the conferences that are covered in Embase, and please do let us know if there are conferences there that you are most interested in and you do not see them in the list. We're very, very interested to look at the conferences that you feel we're not covering yet, and the possibility of covering those in Embase. So if we look here, we can see that we're on the advanced search form. We've opened up field limits, and then we give a number of options for searching for conference data. So you can look by conference date, conference location, conference name. And down here in your publication types, you can limit your search to conference abstracts only. So if you are most interested in the most up-to-date research, you want to keep your research current, for example, then you may want to look in your subject area in conference abstracts only and see what is hot out there at the moment. and you can do that in Embase. Otherwise, of course, if you don't apply the limit, then conference abstracts are automatically included in your search. So deep indexing, let's take a quick dip into the to the indexing. So here we see our entry page in Embase, and some facts and figures for you. Like I said, 60,000 terms, 29,000 of those are drug and chemical terms. Embase is entry is importantly updated 3 times a year with backposting. So as new trade names come into the market, for example, or indeed changes in thinking, perhaps we have feedback on a particular tree, maybe it's a disease tree, and we have feedback that it doesn't comply with your understanding, then we will investigate. And those kind of structural changes tend to be made once a year, whereas we are adding new information, new terms 3 times a year, and these come from many sources, but this is an example: all the drug generic names described by FDA and EMEA, all international non-priority names described by the WHO from 2000. So we are proactively going out and aiming to be comprehensive with regards to the drug terms that we are including in entry, so you do not have to think about them when creating your search in Embase. So this is where you see, for example, the synonyms. So as like we said, a new trade name comes on the market, then we can easily add it to the synonyms. And just to remind you what does that actually mean, and what is the relationship between an entry term and a synonym. This comes into play with mapping. So mapping means that searches get the same results regardless of the term they use. So for example, Vioxx is a synonym of rofecoxib. So you could do a search for Vioxx, but you will retrieve the same results in Embase as if you did a search for rofecoxib, because Vioxx, being a synonym, is mapped to the entry term, and that gives you consistency in your results. Study types, also important when you're looking for specific levels of evidence. So we see here randomized controlled trial. We have 14 study types in total, including the new diagnostic test accuracy study. Drug and disease subheadings will bring specific focus to your search. So instead of just looking for sitagliptin, you could look for drug combination studies, adverse drug reaction studies, or drug comparison, for example. Also the routes of drug administration, when specifically mentioned by the author, then the indexers will enter that information in the specific routes of drug information field. Drug administration field, I should say. So what are the tools that help us to retrieve the most precise information in Embase? So we have our, on a quick search form, you have the autocomplete. So this is completed using entry. So as you start to type a term into the quick search form, it will match your term to the complete entry. And this is particularly useful if you're perhaps a little bit uncertain as to the best terminology to use, or indeed for users who are not so experienced with searching, who are quite new to database searching, then this could be a useful tool for you as well. Our filters, you'll see them here on the left-hand side of the screen. We have the disease filter opened here, so you can see which diseases are referenced with Januvia, for example, as a therapeutic area or a side effect. And we have a deeper level of indexing with regards to drug and disease relationships. And here you see an example using sitagliptin, where our indexers found an adverse drug reaction, and what they have done is they have linked sitagliptin to the actual side effect, in this case the gastrointestinal toxicity, hypoglycemia, for example, and you'll see the same information for drug combination and drug comparison. I would like to, at this point, remind you of the advantages of registering in Embase. So using the content and the indexing and the tools, you will build up your search in Embase, and at that point it is important to think about registering and either saving your search, which is very easy to do in Embase, and you can come back and make changes at any time and you have that search as a reference point, or indeed setting up an email alert. And we are making significant changes to email alerts in the next couple of months, which we'll be delighted to tell you about in further webinars. So by registering at the top of the page, you will get yourself a username and password, and you can at any time then log in and set up an email alert and specify how often you would like to receive new records to your search. So setting up email alerts, saving your searches are advantages of registering in Embase, and of course staying up to date. You will receive regular product updates and newsletters and webinar invites. So Chris, is this a good time to carry out our poll?
Sure. Now that we've introduced you to Embase, we would like to use the second half of the presentation to tell you more about the topic you prefer. Please let us know what you would like to learn more about by clicking on an option on your screen. Well, Emery, based on the poll, it looks like everybody would like to learn more about building and combining searches, and then their second choice was about refining your searches.
Okay, super, Chris. Okay, I am going to jump into embase.com. And let's take a look around. So let me just move that over there. Okay, so here we are in embase.com, and let's take a look at building and combining some searches then. So I think a good example of this is let's take a simple drug and disease search. So we can start very simply in the drug search form, which I'm now about to open. So here at the top you'll see we do have a number of options for search forms, and a good rule of thumb is for a drug search, you won't be surprised to hear me say the drug search form is the best place to start. Likewise for disease. And if you have non-drug or disease related searches, then the advanced search form is ideal, or also depending on your preferred mode of searching, then of course the advanced search form with a larger search box allows you greater flexibility. So if you'd like to build up a longer search, more detailed search in one search form, then of course the advanced search form is ideal for that. But we'll take our drug search form just now. And we're going to look for two drugs, sitagliptin and saxagliptin. Now these are both used in the treatment of type 2 diabetes, but let's look at some drug comparison studies for these two drugs. Now they're relatively popular in the marketplace, and let's see what the efficacy is with regards to these particular drugs. So we have now chosen the sitagliptin and saxagliptin, and we have our drug comparison, and we can do our first search. And here's where we see our search results. Now you'll see running the cursor, or the mouse rather, over the search, you'll see that opens up a number of options for me. Viewing results, which we're presently doing. We're viewing our 69 results. Editing, so I can edit this search in line on this page and save that. I can copy back to the drug search to do more changes on the drug search form, and using the guidance of the drug search form to do that, or set up an email alert or set an RSS feed. So let's leave our search with our 69 just now, and then let's go to our disease search form. And here, for example, we could type in our diabetes mellitus, for example, or we might want to see how we could find type 2 diabetes mellitus. Do we know that that's the right term to use? What you can do is we can do a quick check in Emtree, and it's a good point to show you. So clicking on Emtree which I've done, we can type in diabetes here, and this is a little bit of exploratory work for us. So we've got diabetes. We click on the diabetes mellitus, so we see all of the terms using diabetes in them listed below, but we like diabetes mellitus. So we click on this, and now I need to move my screen down, and let me see what I've found. Now, we've got a number of options here. Now, I'm thinking non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus looks familiar for me. And of course, for those of you working in this area, you don't even need to question it, of course. So let's click on our non-insulin diabetes mellitus, dependent diabetes mellitus. And just to be sure, let's look down at our synonyms. And indeed, we do see here our diabetes mellitus type 2. We have many different occurrences of diabetes mellitus type 2, which will all be mapped to our search. So we can do a number of things now. This will bring us straight to the session results. This will add to Query Builder, okay, and means that we can, I'll just show you what that actually means. This adds it to your Query Builder, and you can start to build your search up in this page. Or what we can do, because we're pretty good with this term just now, is we can take this query to disease search. And when we're in the disease search form, then we have the option for disease subheadings. And from here, to ensure that we find only the studies where we see the therapeutic action, where drugs were given to treat non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus, we choose drug therapy. And by the way, you'll notice that all years here is the default, so it searches the complete collection, including the unique Medline and the conference abstracts. And we click on search. And now we have our second set of results, and you'll see the diabetes mellitus search is considerably larger. And now just to double check that we capture everything, let's combine, and we have combine here. We have a number of options for combine. We've got and, or, we have or indeed we have advanced options. So depending on the level of complexity that you need to apply here to your search, you can choose the advanced or indeed go back to the basic, and we'll stick with and combine. And we get 63 results. So we'll see the majority, obviously, of our first search are indeed already indexing diabetes mellitus, non-insulin diabetes mellitus. And we can go and take a look at those. And we can click on any of the index terms here. And here we see, so this is how the indexers have indexed this particular article. And why is this interesting? Well, it's interesting to see which other drugs were indexed apart from the drugs that we're interested in. We see that the drugs that we looked for are highlighted, of course, as is the disease that we searched for. And if we run our mouse over any of those drugs, we can see more detailed information. So we can see that there were adverse drug reactions in this particular study. So if you are looking for reporting on new adverse drug reactions, for example, or you're doing a clinical study where you're interested in any adverse effects that were seen when administering this to a patient, then you could look here, and this will give you an overview and let you know whether there is something of interest in this study. If you haven't seen respiratory tract infection before, then maybe you decide that this is an article that you need to read because it could be a new adverse effect, or indeed it could be one that you need to consider for your clinical study. So already you get very deep information as to what is contained in this article without indeed going near the full text. And we see, of course, that's our, sorry, I just clicked off there, that under the drug therapy, you see the non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. Okay, so that's our combining searches. And of course, at any time, like we showed in the slides, you can log in here and you can set this up as an email alert once you're actually convinced that this is the search that you were looking for. So, Chris, what was the second one that you said people were interested in?
Yeah, the second choice was refining your search.
Okay. So let's look at refining, options for refining our search. So, for example, in the search that we had here, we went to entry and we had a look at how we could find non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. And we brought it to the disease search, and then we combined it with drug therapy. So that was already, combining it with drug therapy was already refining our search to look at this particular concept. What we can do is we can copy this back to the disease search, and let's take a look at what it means to choose major focus, for example. So this is something that's also applied by our indexers. So our indexers are reading the full text of the articles in Embase, and they are then using precise definitions and guidelines, applying the inserting the index terms in the appropriate fields, and applying things like major focus. So this is where the disease or the drug are of the most importance in this particular article. So they're not just mentioned, they are actually of major importance. So if we click on major focus and do a search, we'll see that we do get we get lesser results for sure. So we're now looking at 22,510 results compared to the nearly 32,000 that we got earlier. So this is one option, and of course what we always say is it's not always a good idea to start with major focus. We do advise that you do a search without major focus, review your results. If you find that they're a little unfocused or a little bit too broad, then you can always use the major focus to bring your results into to a more refined option and focus those results on the disease area or drug area that you're interested in. Now, what's interesting here, of course, is that we could also look at our drug information. So let's open up our drug search, and we've got a number of options here where we could start to refine our search based on the filters. And you can see that many of the results here, we have insulin, metformin, etc., etc. So this gives us an indication of the number of articles with these particular drugs included. And you can start to refine using the drug filter, or you could use, for example, the study type. So, for example, randomized controlled trial will make a huge difference to the number of results, and of course also the levels of evidence for this particular search. So to find diabetes, type 2 diabetes mellitus records which are randomized controlled trial studies is a considerably different search. What you can also do, of course, is if we take this back again to the disease search, bearing in mind, of course, that we can also edit here, but I would just like to show you the advanced and the quick limits. So you have your quick limits here. For example, we could limit to humans, for example, which we can try. And we have evidence-based medicine limits, publication types, for example. So here you have your conference abstracts, for example. You could look and see what you've got with regards to conference abstracts. And let's click on our search using the humans. And each time we filter down our results to a smaller set that we can review. Now, one thing that is interesting in looking at the advanced search form, because we looked at the drug and disease up until this point, and in addition on the advanced search form you have the field limits that we looked for, and this can be quite interesting. With regards to, we said, for example, you could type a conference name in here and add it. So if you have, for example, we could have cardiovascular and then use conference name, for example. Something that is quite interesting as well is the unique fields that we have here. So device trade name, drug manufacturer, drug trade name, for example. So something like sitagliptin, actually let's use Vioxx, and we apply drug trade name. And then this is a very different search. So this is looking for where Vioxx is specifically mentioned as a trade name. And what you can do is we can click on one of those records, and I'll show you where you can see this information. So you'll see here in the additional information in the record itself, you'll see drug trade names and you'll see Vioxx. As opposed to where, of course, rofecoxib is probably mentioned in the article itself. In this particular instance, the actual trade name was specifically mentioned. So the indexers don't go and find trade names. These are mentioned by the authors themselves and therefore indexed in those unique fields. Okay, Chris, how are we doing for time? Do I have time to do one more search?
I think we are running out of time, so maybe we should go ahead and answer some questions.
Sure. Yeah, happy to do that.
Okay, great. Okay. Well, thank you, Anne-Marie, for that more in-depth live demonstration of Embase. Now we've come to the last part of this webinar. So let's take a look at some of the questions that have come in. The first question is, how do you include the information from conferences into Embase?
So what we do with the conference information, this is currently provided by the supplement in the journal of the exhibition of the group. So so they would have it would be a conference from a particular group, and then the supplement with the conference abstracts would be included in the journal, and we would then take those abstracts and we automatically index those particular conference abstracts using Emtree. Our manual indexers don't do that, but we do pull out the information using Emtree, and then we add all of those conference abstracts into Embase. Now we're not currently going outside of the journal content, so to speak. It is something that we would really like to do. There are some challenges there with regards to copyright and getting the information, requesting the information. But it is something that we're still pursuing, and we do hope to keep increasing the number of conferences that we're covering in Embase. And like I said, we're keen to hear from users if there are conferences that they would like us to cover, then we can push those up the priority list as well. So there are currently 450,000 conference abstracts covered, and they grow every year, of course, from the number of conferences that we're covering. But yeah, we love to hear from our users with regards to that conference content, how valuable it is and what they would still like to see in there, of course.
Okay, thank you. We have another question. Somebody would like to know where they can get the journal list.
Yeah, sure. Why don't we just go into the info site. So we have embase.com. Actually, we do have a link on the bottom, but let's just go in this way. So embase.com/info to make sure you see the information, or you see the URL rather. And that is just coming up. And we've got embase.com, we've got journal coverage, and on the journal coverage page you will see we've got a click here for an annual summary of journals covered by Embase, and you'll also see the little bit about our articles in press and in process records, and you can go to our conferences as well. So the conference coverage is just underneath, and on the conference coverage page you'll be able to link through to a list of conferences. Okay?
It has to do with Embase and Medline, so can you explain the overlap and the relationship between those two?
Sure, and we touched on that a little bit in the slides at the beginning. So it is, I mean, it's a very important subject with regards to Embase, of course, that the way that we combine Embase and Medline. And what I can do is include a link to our white paper, how Medline is added to Embase. And like we said, we add only the journal content from Medline, which is not already in Embase. And that supplements the overall Embase content. It is not indexed by Embase, so we add it with the original mesh indexing, but what we then do is map those mesh terms to the entry indexing. So we do a one-to-one relationship, so we find the nearest entry term and we then map it. Now this can work to the advantage, of course, where you'll see in some instances with regards to drug indexing in M3, we would go deeper. So rather than stopping at the group level, for example, we would go deeper into the number of narrower terms for a drug, so the specific drug names rather than just the group names. So anti-inflammatory drugs, for example, are antibacterial drugs. So there you would see a lot of detail. So where the mesh term would have been antibacterials or something like that, anti-inflammatory, and you may not have got a full list of the actual drug terms. When we map that to the entry term, then of course you can take the advantage of exploding that out as well, of course. So so we do retain the original mesh indexing. We don't re-index the Medline content, and it is then fully integrated into your Embase search using the entry terminology. And like I said, I will include the link to the white paper for those of you who would like to look at that in more depth.
Okay, thank you, Anne-Marie. I think we've run out of time, and we have come to the end of this Embase introductory webinar. Thank you for attending, and thank you, Anne-Marie, for your presentation. Today's session offered an introduction to solutions Embase can provide. We are offering other more in-depth sessions throughout the year. You will receive a link to the webinar calendar and a follow-up email. Please feel free to register for as many Embase webinars as possible or send it through to your colleagues. When you leave the session, a survey will pop up. Please fill out what your thoughts are regarding this webinar so we can improve and meet your needs. Besides this, you will receive the Q&A by email shortly. Many thanks again, and good luck with exploring Embase further, and we hope to meet you again soon.
Thank you, Chris.